November is National Entrepreneurship Month, a time to recognize and celebrate the successes and contributions of South Africa's entrepreneurs and assess how they are supported in their work in innovating and mapping the future of business in this country. How are business people doing so far? Let's ask Elvis Sekhaolelo, who is founder and executive director of Ekasi Entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for coming, Elvis.
Thank you.
Let's start first by assessing the state of entrepreneurship, especially with regards to Ekasi.
Yes. So essentially, a lot of people assume that the township entrepreneurs are what you actually get to see when you go to the township. They think that it's your chisanyamas, your spaza shops and all of that. And there's actually more to that. There are innovative businesses in the township that are in production, in agriculture, in agro-processing. But because we are not able to see that, we assume that the township entrepreneurs are not necessarily to the level of where they are. And with us, the main aim is to say, how do you get to expose these entrepreneurs? How do you get to support them? How do you get to take them from one point to the other in different ways that you can be able to do that?
But do they have the capacity to do that? I remember about 3 years ago when Gauteng Premier David Makura said that they had allocated more than 500 billion rand so that the township business can have business they outsource to and they can be service providers. But they had to cancel that because they did not have the capacity by then.
True. So one of the biggest challenges that the township entrepreneurs actually face is around infrastructure. We do not have production infrastructures that are based in the township for us to produce at a specific level. So I'm going to give you an example. One of our entrepreneurs actually is in agro-processing, and one of the biggest challenges is that they do not have a factory for them to produce their produce, right? And because of that, they're not able to get your SABC approval. So because of that, it gets to them to say that they're not able to actually meet the normal standards and requirements. And the discussion that needs to go into saying, it's fine to be able to give the skills and the development of the sort, but how are we getting to a point where we invest in infrastructures that will allow township entrepreneurs to actually produce from the township as opposed to being the consumers? I think there are entrepreneurs that actually have the capacity, and you need to look at it in a way that we should not focus it as it's a big corporate. And the model that needs to go about it is that with government and private sectors, they need to look at it in a way where we can look at consortium. Because if a corporate or a government is actually looking at procuring a specific service, they'll say, for example, they need 100,000 units a month. But you find that only one entrepreneur is able to produce 20,000, the others 30. And it's a matter of how do we now bring all of those together in a proper formal way to make sure that they're able to produce, to supply the corporate or the government.
So at basic level, how informed and knowledgeable are these entrepreneurs? I remember in one of their workshops, one of them was asking a question and wanted to know if a business plan really works.
Look, it depends on what level of business you're at and what is it that you actually need as a business. Some of the entrepreneurs and some of the businesses actually are able to go ahead and actually run and do business and do it extremely well without having a proper business plan. But the reality is that a business plan is actually not necessarily to say that you need to take it out there to people for funding, but it's also a measure of your own success to say, this is what I've planned for this year or for this month, and this is how I'm actually following up on the business plan. And it may be a business plan, maybe a canvas or something that will actually give you on the road to success for your business. But the reality is that a lot of institutions, for them to be able to support you, for them to be able to fund you, obviously you need a proper documentation of where you are in your business, whether it be through the form of business plan, annual financial statements, and all of that. And it's quite important that a lot of entrepreneurs get to be formalized, get to understand the importance of this documentation, for them to be able to not just be survivalist or actually just operating their own spaces, but look at models and way to be able to access bigger markets and grow as an entrepreneurs in that area.
Okay, so as Entrepreneur Month kicks off,
yes,
concerning the work that you do, what is your success rate? And this month, what have you planned for them?
Look, I think one of the biggest, to be honest with you, one of the biggest things that I've learned is that African people, we're not good in telling our stories. And that's what actually Ekasi Entrepreneurs has always been about. We've never actually told the stories of the entrepreneurs that are actually doing quite well. Last year, we actually had a patient challenge, let's say around June, and this says more about how do we showcase the township entrepreneurs. So let me give you some of the examples of projects that we actually do. I mean, one of the key and one of the main impact projects called the mentorship circles, and we invite international universities like UCLA, University of Notre Dame, to actually come and actually mentor township entrepreneurs. They will have the business plan and the business process and everything prior to them coming here. And the idea is that for them to be able to research the business, come here with like a turnaround strategy, new product development, new ways of doing things, technology. And the businesses that have actually went through the mentorship circle have actually exponentially grown throughout the process. So I'm going to give you an example of Tsolo Mhlongo. Tsolo is in agro-processing, and she produced ginger beer. And at the beginning, she didn't know how to price one bottle of the ginger beer. She didn't know how much it cost her. But because of the knowledge and the information that she was able to get, that's when she was able to be mentored and go forward. Other entrepreneurs, they were able to now change their model and become better in how they do things. So what I'm saying is that it's a matter of saying, how do we now get to a point where we showcase the township entrepreneurs and make sure that they actually get to access the right market for them to be able to grow.
Okay, all right. I guess so much to be talked about concerning entrepreneurship, and since this is their month, and surely their stories will be told. But thank you very much for making time.
It's always a pleasure.
All right. Our guest for today is Elvis Sekhaolelo, who is the founder and executive director of Ekasi Entrepreneurs. Let's take a break.